Alright, hello everyone. This video is gonna be a very controversial video. The reason why I'm making this video is because a lot of people, not a lot of people, but one guy told me that I have been playing this class only while because it's meta right now. I didn't realize that the Dark Blight class might be meta because when I started playing it, I started playing on tier 1. I was a seeker, I was a healer, and I was playing versus a Zerg of 7 guilds. I couldn't do anything, and no guild would contest that Zerg. I didn't like to play the game as a healer in that condition. I didn't want to join the Zerg. So I was looking for a class that could do something against the Zerg by itself. And then I found out about Dark Blight. I started playing it, and when I started playing it, the class was considered really off meta or niche. Because the only role that it had was to sleep bomb, and that being not the damage sleep bomb, just finding a position and getting someone on sleep and spreading, giving your team an engage to just get inside and start spinning, or just doing any of the AoE damage, and basically doing a bomb, right? You would prep the bomb. But I started to find a style to play Glass Cannon and do the bomb myself. You can see on this clip, is a very old clip of tier 1, is one of the best bombs that I got during that time. So it was very fun. It was a very niche class, it was very off meta. Not a lot of people would look into it, but the game has changed a lot, and I have been looking into a lot of lists, and I want to do my own list because I think my views are different and my opinions are different, and I want to talk a little bit about it. So just be aware that this video is not like definitive proof or like the definitive tier list based on anything. It's not using like raw data from the tournament or anything, because this is from before the tournament. This is just using my experience and the things that I've been talking with other people that have played, I would say, competitively or try to play PvP often, right? The list is going to be for PvP overall, mostly focusing on small scale, GVG, and ZVZ. It's going to be based on my personal opinion and experience, because you cannot know everything about every single class, so definitely there's going to be things that's going to change based on your views and information that you have, but I do want to talk about it based on mine. The S tier is going to be for basically the classes that every guild needs. The A plus and the A tier is going to be classes that are currently very viable in my view, and classes that are desirable for any guild. The B plus and the B are classes that can still be played on guilds, but they are definitely outside of the meta right now, or they, in my view, of course, and they are definitely harder to pull. Only the best players or really good players are going to be able to use those classes in this condition and perform as well as the other A classes. The C classes is going to be niche classes, or classes that I have seen before. I have seen people trying to use and not succeeding, or just slopping midway or giving up basically. And the needs more test is basically the D tier, which is going to be classes that I had never seen. I don't see anyone exploring at all, or I myself don't have enough experience or know much about them at all. So I want to start with the S tier classes, because there's only 2 S tier classes that come to my mind. The first one being the classic one bowl, the Seeker, right? I think everyone expected. It's the best healer class in the game, basically the only healer class that is playable in the game right now in competitive ways, I would say. As a main healer, of course, not the second healer. It's just bossing any party in any guild. The second class, which I think is the core of basically any party, is gonna be your SNS and Greatsword, because it has the buffs from the SNS for the defensive buffs, and has also the devotion from the Greatsword. So these 2 classes here is basically the core of any of the competitive strong classes or strong parties right now. And now I'm gonna start listing one by one based on what I think. I think SNS 1 is a great tank by itself, but even better as DPS Templar, Curse Templar right now. I definitely think it's A plus and one of the best DPS weapons in the game right now. Even though it's endurance, it can survive a lot and do a lot of DPS, and being one of the few classes that can constantly deal with one bow and even tanks. The SNS Dagger, I have seen some people using it, but I don't have enough information about it. You only know that the people that have been trying it usually gave up midway or have swapped later on. So I'm going to be placing on C tier for now. If anyone has more information about this or has high tier or good gameplay about it, I would love to see. Feel free to tag it on the comments. But from my experience, it doesn't have much that it can do right now as TPS at least. I have seen some people run it as a support, but I still think there's better combinations with the SNS for support. The SNS staff follow the same concept, but I have never seen anyone using it. SNS bow, I have never seen anyone using it, so it's gonna be on nismortestion/info. Saying, oh sorry, for the SNS X bow, it's the weird cousin exception, right? It's a class that was very niche on tier 1, basically non-existent, but on tier 2 it became basically meta because with Cordy it's just a menace on ZVZ, and even on GVGs it can do some decent like damage. More than this, it can do a lot of damage, but I don't think it's that good in small scale. But it's definitely like lower A+ tier or higher A tier. I'm gonna be placing higher A tier for now because it's very dependent on Cordy, but I still think it's like insanely good class. The SNS Spear is a very interesting one. In my view, it's very similar to the SNS Greatsword, but the Greatsword is more focused on like being a support at the same time. The Spear has decent support spells, but I have seen it being used more to like contest stones with the CC chances or CC resist. It's not niche, it's pretty strong, and I do think it's not bad, but I still think SNS Greatsword is just better in like 90% of the scenarios, so I'm going to be rating the higher B+. It can be probably a lower A+, lower A, sorry, as well, but I think it fits well on B+. The Wand Staff is probably a very it's not a very niche class anymore. It has been getting more and more popular recently, the Invocator. For PvP, I mean. Right now, it's one of the classes that has the most damage possible in the game. It's one of the highest DPS classes in the game, but it's also pretty squishy compared to the evasion classes or like endurance classes. So it needs a really strong party to protect it, but once you have a party peeling for you, it's definitely a menace, and I'm gonna be rating it right underneath the SNS Expo on A. The one Dagger, I'm gonna leave to the final. The one Expo, I believe it's a very niche concept, and a lot of people think it's just trash, but personally, with the amount of weekend chance you can get from it, you can do a really oppressing mana drain like job with it. You're just gonna be using the one for the time for punishing with the mana punishment spec with the one, and the Expo just hitting to remove the mana from the guy. I think it's a great mana drain type of style. It's very specific for gameplay, mostly on GVGs, so it's not gonna be on high tiers, but I think it definitely deserves a B because it's playable. One Spear, I have seen it before, but everyone that I knew that played this class swapped, so I'm gonna place on C. Jazz Dagger, I think he lost some power recently because the melee accessories finally got more accessible, the melee evasion. So I'm gonna be placing it on lower A, but I still think it's a very solid class, very easy to play overall. Of course, there's always the extra details that can make to shine with the class, but overall it can be very effective with little gameplay, so I'm gonna be placing it on A because I think it's solid. GS Spear, funny enough, I think it's a A+ class. The Gladiator is one of the best classes right now, in my opinion, because it basically counters all the dagger metas, all the evasion. It's the class, one of the only classes in the game that can hit high enough to almost always hit dagger users. So it's definitely one of the best counter evasion weapons in the game right now. It's the best counter evasion weapon in the game right now. The GS bow is a very niche one. I have seen some people using it, but I still have to see some potential in it. Some people playing it to its full potential, but most people that I knew that played this already swapped, so I'm gonna be placing on C. The GS staff I actually think has potential because it can hit, like, just with GS Spear, GS staff can also hit some decent hit chances. I think it has potential, but I don't see anyone using it. But I think it's very similar to GS Spear, you just need to be more explored more. The difference is that with GS Spear, you also have the Breezer power, so you can do a lot of CC compared to the GS Staff, which you will have less CC and less buffs, right? So I think it's probably going to be placed on B or C, but I don't have enough knowledge to judge this, so I'm going to put here, I'll need more tests or info, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was higher tier than people expect. The GS Expo is not very good in my opinion. I don't see why this combination would be interesting, but maybe someone can explore more about it, so I'm going to be placing on the needs more tests and info. The GS one is a funny one. I think it's worse than GS Staff for DPS. I think it does the same thing as GS Staff overall, but worse. But if you're playing this as support, I actually had a support that played GS 1 and was magnific, because it had mostly buff duration and cooldown, so he would keep devotion up almost the entire time up, with Blast Barrier and other buffs. You will always be able to engage with the Great Sword CCs, and at the same time peel/heal with the 1. It was very solid, and I think it's mega underrated. I'm going to be placing on B+, and I hope more people explore this class, because I think it's a really solid secondary healer. Not the main healer, but the second healer is really strong. Pure Dagger is just like GS Dagger, it's very solid. I'm gonna be placing on A. It's definitely not as strong as on tier 1, but it's still very solid. The only problem with it is just like any of the other Dagger classes, or like melee / anything that's not wand right now, it's gonna struggle to kill one bow and tanks. So even though it's a really solid class, I don't think it's the best class right now, but it's definitely good enough to be playing in the meta. The Spear X-Bow is niche. I have only seen one person using this, and I don't see it competitive at all, so I'm just gonna be placed on C. The Staff Dagger is a really solid class, and the only reason I'm gonna be placing it on top of Spear and the Greatsword is because the melee accessories for evasion just got more accessible, so I think Greatsword and Spear got a hit on it. And meaning Staff, in my opinion right now, it's more solid because it's easier to... No, it's just stronger overall. I think GS and Spear got a big nerf from the melee evasion being more accessible. I'm going to be placing it under one staff because I still think one staff is the best for bursting tanks and seekers now. But I still think Staff Dagger is a very solid class in every possible aspect. Like it's very fast DPS, it's ranged, and got all the accessibilities from the dagger, so it's really strong. The Staff Spear, I have not seen this, and I'm gonna talk about it, so need more tests / information. Staff X-Bow, same thing, I imagine it's terrible, but needs more tests and information. Bow Dagger, I have friends that played it, my guild leader played this, but honestly, from what I have seen, it's not in a really good spot right now. It's barely playable, and to do the same DPS the other classes do, you need to do a lot more, which means you have to be a really decent player to make this weapon be worth the money, basically. So I'm gonna be placing it on lower B, actually. I think it's not a really good class to play right now, DPS wise. The bow didn't get very good masteries on tier 2, and it doesn't... The sustain that it has a lot of self-sustain, but doesn't justify the damage that it does. Bow Spear is just... I don't know. I need more tests with it. I don't think it's very solid. Bow Staff. I also have not seen anyone running this, so... Oh, sorry. No, what am I talking about? My bad. Liberators, Bow Staff, right? A lot of people was running this on tier 1, and on the start of tier 2, a lot of people kept running this. But as the evasion got more and more to the meta, and the endurance start being more and more tankier, Bow Staff just lost its shine. It's basically one staff, but worse. It's very similar to one staff, but it's like has less burst potential, and like is just as squishy to die. So I would place Bow Staff with Bow Dagger right here on B tier. Bow X-Bow is a scout. I have only seen one player playing this, and I think it's very similar to Bow Dagger right now. It's struggling a lot to do damage, because the bolt doesn't do a lot of damage, and I think X-Bolt could be used better with other classes like the Dagger. So I'm going to be placing it here. The X-Bolt Dagger, I think it's really strong, even though it's very mixed opinions. A lot of people say it's really bad, a lot of people say it's really good. I personally think it's a very high ceiling skill, a very hard class to master. But once you master it, if you can play it properly, if you can play it well, it can like quickly burst out very important targets on the squishy small windows that you have between devotions or blast daggers. So I think it's a very solid class, just need a lot of skill to pull it off. I probably would rate it around A tier, in front of Spear Dagger probably. And finally, one Dagger. Where should I place this? Some of you guys might think I would place it on S because being biased towards your weapon. Which is funny because I always played one Dagger because it was niche, but it turns out with tier 2 it got better and better and better, right? Right now, I honestly, from my experience and from the gameplay and from the fights that I have been having, I would place it on the strongest DPS class in the game. I know this is gonna be a very controversial decision, but the reasons behind it in my head is the following. It's one of the few classes that can kill Seekers and tanks, just like the Templars, right, and the Invocators, because it has Curse. But it has it's very similar to the Templars, but it has the big advantage of being an evasion, so you have the smoke and other tools that you can use that benefits like your part. Not saying the SNS one doesn't have it, but the big reason why I'm talking about the evasion is because not only it can kill Seekers and tanks, just like the Templars, but it can kill Templars. For example, one Dagger can kill a Templar quite easily because they don't have magic evasion, so you're going to be hitting your curses. But a Templar cannot kill a one Dagger quite easily because the one Dagger is going to have magic evasion, which means the one Dagger actually counters the Templar, meaning it's a great class not only to counter the strongest base of the party, the healer and the tank, but also the DPS of the party, which is the Templar, right? And it's also a really strong class against the Gladiator, because the Gladiator is going to be usually endurance, and the one Dagger just loves killing any endurance target, so it's going to be doing really well against the Gladiator. And even though the Gladiator will hit Dagger users more often than any other class due to it having high melee hit, the one Dagger can actually hit really high melee chances, usually above the other classes, because since it can give up the hit entirely to focus on endurance targets, it has higher evasion than the other classes that usually have a little bit more hit to hit the other Dagger targets. So it's a very interesting role that it plays right now, because it counters the core of the parties. It counters the strongest DPS that the other Daggers will struggle to kill, right? Even the Gladiator will struggle to kill the Templars, so the one Dagger counters the Templars. And the class that counters the Daggers, which is the Staff, GS, blah blah blah, that gets countered by the Templar, don't get that much affected because one Dagger usually has more evasion than those classes except Expo. Expo is just the odd exception. I'm gonna actually move Expo higher here. Because the Gladiator is gonna only struggle to kill probably mostly Expos, buff Staff during the period of the buff, and one Daggers because one Daggers just give up the hit entirely for more evasion, basically. So that's the reason, the logic behind this. But again, this is just my tier list based on my experience or my opinions on the game, since from my perspective as a one Dagger, I have been thinking about it since someone told me my class is meta. I cannot think of a counter for my class right now, other than pressing Q and pairing my Curse Explosion, I guess. So that's why I'm placing one Dagger as the strongest DPS in the game, because I don't see what is the proper counter for it currently. I think the closest thing to countering is GS Spear, but you have a lot of kill pressure on the GS Spear, and the GS Spear doesn't have as much kill pressure on you as it does on the other classes. Except Expo, of course. but the X-Bow still struggles to kill other classes. I think X-Bow actually should be higher. I would put X-Bow here because evasion is just that strong. The only reason why one staff is in front of X-Bow here, by the way, is because one staff can output so much DPS in almost every type of scenario as long as it has the proper peel and party to protect it. But I think that's about it for my tier list. This video is quite a bit long. I imagine it's quite a bit controversial. I think I managed to put all my opinions on the classes and why I place them in different tiers on different positions based on my current knowledge of the game. Of course, I'm no pro, and I don't think honestly anyone in this game is really a mega pro. I think everyone has different takes and different biased opinions based on their experiences. I'm very curious to see how the tournament will go and what classes will be played and what numbers we will get as results from that. But that's about it for now. Thank you for watching and see ya.